Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Mystery. Awakening SSS level talent extraction. At the beginning, Jiang Feng, who has traveled to the fantasy world, possesses two talents: SSS level extraction and enlightenment. He can easily comprehend the world's martial arts, and can randomly extract divine weapons and treasures with just a touch. Randomly extract unparalleled Tianjiao, with a root bone of 800, and enhance martial arts qualifications. Randomly extract the ancient sword, iron horse, and ice river to obtain the meaning of the dark ice sword. Randomly extract one page of swordsmanship fragments to obtain heavenly level swordsmanship. Randomly extract the Taiku Emperor sword and obtain the annihilation sword domain. He can extract everything, including extracting immortals, Buddhas, and gods and demons from all over the world. One day, Jiang Feng stood on the river of time, facing the road. Randomly extract the heaven and earth avenue to obtain the avenue rule. From then on, Jiang Feng began the journey of unlimited harvesting. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Listing commitment letter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adhere to originality and eliminate non-compliant commitment letters. My pen name is Lingbao, and I guarantee that this signed work belongs to my own original creation. I strictly follow the Feilu Writers' Convention during the creation process, adhere to originality, and eliminate the following violations. If there are any violations, I am willing to bear all consequences arising from them. 1. Ensure that the signed work belongs to one's own original work and does not involve plagiarism or plot plagiarism in Chinese translation. 2. Ensure that no third-party works or plot are plagiarized during the creative process. 3. Ensure that the Feilu Novel Network is the first and only contracted website for this work. 4. Ensure compliance with laws and regulations during the creative process, including but not limited to, violations such as not involving politics, not involving pornography, gambling, drugs, promoting cults, not ghostwriting, not blocking or abolishing manuscripts, not hosting, not selling works or accounts. 5. Ensure that regardless of the word count of the work, the signed work must complete the plot, never end, and never stop. It's on the shelves tonight. For those who like it, please subscribe and support. The author has bowed 90 times. Love you all, more than heart. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 1. Demon Heaven Sword Sect. SSS level talent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The land of the northern regions. Demon Heaven Sword Sect. The martial arts arena was crowded with a crowd of people. Most faces are filled with fear, and the scene is also incredibly noisy. At this moment, a cold snort sounded. Shut up, everyone. At the same time, a trembling pressure overwhelmed the entire audience. This almost suffocated everyone. As soon as the words fell, a middle-aged man dressed in green walked up to the stone steps. Immediately swept through the crowd on the martial arts arena. His eyes were extremely sharp, and no one dared to look at him in the field. This is the Demon Heaven Sword Sect. If you want to survive, be honest. The middle-aged man spoke up. But as soon as these words were spoken, more than 10,000 ordinary people in the martial arts arena below were all confused. The Demon Heaven Sword Sect. Is that the Demon Sect? Hiss. It's not good. Grandma, our luck is also too bad. Run. Run now. At this moment, some people are sitting on the ground in despair, while others are running out. Seeing this, the expression of the middle-aged man on the stone steps remained unchanged. He just lifted his left hand and lightly waved the sleeve of his robe. She. I saw dozens of sword energies burst out. Ah! The young people who were running away were hit one by sword energy. With just a muffled snort, he collapsed to the ground and passed away. Hiss. Others saw this scene. The scene suddenly fell silent. I dare not even breathe heavily. Those who want to survive. Be honest with me, damn it. The middle-aged man said in a cold voice. At this moment, no one dares to respond to him. Your arrest here can also be considered a disaster for us. Next, I will conduct a martial arts qualification test on you. Regardless of our martial arts aptitude, our demon Heaven Sword Sect will treat you kindly. As the voice fell, the middle-aged man waved his left hand again. Nearly 10,000 yellow lights scattered from his hands and then rushed into the crowd. But those yellow lights did not harm them, they only stuck to everyone's body. This yellow light is actually a talisman. After the talisman is applied to a person, it begins to change color. Some people's talismans have turned pale red. Some people are purple-red, while others are light yellow, dark yellow, and so on. What's the situation like? In the martial arts arena, everyone's faces were filled with panic and confusion. The four characters Tian Sword Sect brought them a strong sense of fear. But among these people, there is one whose gaze is different from that of ordinary people. This person has a handsome appearance and an extraordinary demeanor. It's Jiang Feng. He looked at the talisman pasted on his body and the middle-aged man on the stone steps. Time flickered incessantly in his eyes, his gaze burning brightly. Is this the cultivation of martial arts? Jiang Feng murmured. Just a few days ago, he was devoured by a golden light. Then came this dangerous and unpredictable world. He did not awaken the various systems in the book, but only added 2 innate abilities. Extraction and enlightenment. So within a few days, he searched everywhere for the Cultivation sect. I want to join the sect early and embark on the path of cultivation. Boost your 2 innate abilities and take off completely. But a few days ago, he was knocked unconscious by someone in the mountains and forests. When he woke up, he appeared in the demon Heaven Sword Sect with more than 10,000 young people around him. The name Tian Sword Sect makes people shudder at the sound of it. And the middle-aged man's extremely casual act of killing just now. All of these made Jiang Feng understand that this sect is not a good place. But no matter what, he finally entered the Cultivation sect and achieved his wish. Ha ha ha. There are actually 2 young people among this group who have decent martial arts qualifications. The middle-aged man burst out laughing. Immediately, he threw 2 identity cards at the 2 people flashing blue light on their bodies. From today on, you 2 will be the official disciples of our demon Heaven Sword Sect outside the mountain. The 2 people caught the identity card, looking flattered and then overjoyed. Elder Xie. Elder Xie appreciated it. The middle-aged man waved his hand and said, just call me Elder Xiao. The 2 of them bowed again to express their gratitude. It's a rare opportunity to become an outer mountain disciple of the demon Heaven Sword Sect without dying. The other people in the field were both shocked and extremely envious when they saw this scene. Although the demon Heaven Sword Sect is a demon sect. But being able to become his disciple is definitely a generation with deep blessings. At least it is much more fortunate than ordinary people. Elder Xiao looked at the others again and continued, the person with a yellow light shining on his body is out of line. Less than 1,000 people walked out with a nervous heart. Your martial arts qualifications are still good. You can go to other main peaks to do miscellaneous work. Are you willing to? Elder Xiao asked. I am willing to wait. The crowd immediately answered. Although it was a question, they all recognized the threat in Elder Xiao's words. Willing is death. Compared to dying, working as a laborer on a major peak is also acceptable. Elder Xiao nodded and threw his identity card at them. A person with a flashing red light appeared. He continued to shout. Nearly 3,000 people emerged from the crowd this time. Your martial arts skills are ordinary, and you can do odd jobs in the outer mountains. Are you willing? Elder Shao asked. I am willing to. These 3,000 people responded in unison. Elder Shao threw them a pile of identity cards. At this moment, there are still nearly 6,000 people on the square. The talismans attached to their bodies turned into a dull gray. Jiang Feng is one of them. At this moment, his face looks a bit ugly. The talisman on the body should be used by the demon Heaven Sword Sect to test the martial arts aptitude of its disciples. Different colors represent different martial arts qualifications. Does the dim gray display mean that you don't have any cultivation qualifications at all? No, I'm not suitable for cultivation. Do you have 2 talents, SSS level extraction and enlightenment? Is it difficult to be defeated before it even shows its potential? You should know that if you don't have martial arts qualifications, you are useless to the sect. Ordinary sects in the realm of cultivation will definitely be driven away directly. But a demon sect like the demon Heaven Sword Sect may be a close call to death. At this moment, Jiang Feng's heart immediately thumped. At the moment when Jiang Feng's heart was full of ups and downs, Elder Shao looked at the 6,000 people in the martial arts arena with a playful curve on his lips. He. The remaining 6,000 people are all going with me to a special place. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 2. Profound Talent. This technique is too simple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a moment, the remaining 6,000 people followed Elder Shao to a remote place on the back mountain of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. They don't have a choice. A few people wanted to sneak away midway. But they were all detected by Elder Shao and immediately killed on the spot. Alright, that's it here. Shao Shengladeo. Have you arrived somewhere? Everyone was confused. There is clearly nothing here. Is it difficult for Elder Shao to want to kill and wipe out his reputation? At this point, everyone's faces became flustered. Fortunately, Elder Shao did not look at them. But instead, he reached out and made a decision in the void. Then a transparent magic formation appeared in front of everyone. Mr. Mu, I have brought you these young people. Elder Shao said with a respectful tone. An old voice came out. Then 2 crystal-clear stones were thrown out from inside and flew towards Elder Shao. Farewell, I won't disturb you if it's okay. Elder Shao happily took the stone path. Go ahead. The old voice responded. The next moment, Elder Zhao's figure moved and he disappeared into the field. Only 6,000 people were left confused. Before they could express their confusion, everyone felt a tremendous force strike. Immediately, they were all dragged into the formation by that force. The scene suddenly changed. This place is dim and gloomy. Surrounded by neat sword graves. A long sword is inserted above each sword grave. The Yin wind is blowing everywhere, particularly desolate. It is clear that autumn has just begun, but a sense of solemnity and awe permeates everywhere here. Jiang Feng only took a deep breath. I suddenly felt a piercing pain in my chest and abdomen. Where is this place? Why are there sword graves everywhere? Ah! It hurts. It really hurts. There must be a problem here. The demon Heaven Sword Sect is trying to kill us. Woo. I don't want to die yet. Amidst the panic of the crowd, an old voice rang in the ears of 6,000 people. The voice was very light, but it made everyone hear it extremely clearly. This is the Tianyuan Sword Tomb of the Demon Heaven Sword Sect. Next, I will pass on a chi practice technique. Only those who have successfully operated for 6 weeks can become swordsmen. Immediately, the old voice passed on the practice of chi to everyone. These people present seemed to have seized a glimmer of hope for life. Everyone endured the excruciating pain and listened to the cultivation method of this chi cultivation technique. Jiang Feng is the same. He thought he would definitely die this time, but he never thought of hiding another secret. Sword Defender. What kind of identity is this? Don't you sound good? But as long as we live, there are still variables. Let's save our lives first. And now he has finally come into contact with the martial arts of this world. Jiang Feng endured the piercing sensation in his body and sat cross-legged, listening attentively. The obscure and difficult to understand qi cultivation technique sounded like a fairy sound in his ears, making him intoxicated. Jiang Feng felt that this method was extremely simple and not difficult to understand. Gradually, Jiang Feng became mesmerized. The mysterious energy that had previously been wandering in his body gradually began to operate along a fixed route. Those who can practice the qi technique for 6 weeks today can go to the Sword Tower to claim the identity of Sword Guardian. The old voice disappeared after saying these words. And this old man did not know that during the half-burning incense time after he left. Among the 6,000 people, one young man opened his eyes. There is a faint gleam in both eyes. There is also a faint golden halo around the body. These lights are extremely dim, and no one can even detect them. Ha! Are these mysterious energies in my body? Is this the qi practice technique? It feels too easy. Jiang Feng felt a little surprised in his heart. He now feels comfortable all over and seems to be full of strength. The piercing sensation has all dissipated. Every time Jiang Feng takes a breath, the qi cultivation technique inside his body will automatically activate. Of course, his automatic operation speed is very slow. If he controls his mind, his speed will increase rapidly. Just halfway through the burning incense, he had already been running for 12 weeks. By using the law to determine the operation of the mysterious qi of heaven and earth, and with extremely stable meridians and breath. Can this be considered as an introduction to the gathering qi realm? Jiang Feng is not quite sure. Thinking of the old voice saying that after 6 weeks of operation, one can go and claim the identity of a sword guardian. I have completed the task twice as much in 12 weeks. At this moment, Jiang Feng stood up and planned to go and collect his identity card. But at this moment, he sensed an extremely eerie scene. At this moment, most of the remaining 6,000 people have collapsed in a pool of blood, their vitality scattered, and they have already died. What's going on here? Jiang Feng's eyes showed a startled expression. He was just focused on practicing the qi technique and didn't even notice any major movements from the outside world. Ah! Suddenly, several mournful cries came from beside me. Jiang Feng immediately turned his head to look. I saw extremely sharp mysterious qi piercing out from those human bodies. Immediately, his body was pierced with blood holes, and blood surged wildly. After a few breaths, these people died of exhaustion. I'll go. Jiang Feng took a cold breath and suddenly froze. This mysterious aura is even sharper than sword aura. No one else in the audience stood up. Jiang Feng knew that he was far ahead of everyone because he had the talent for enlightenment. At this moment, he doesn't want to go to the Sword Tower so quickly to claim his identity. After all, Mu Xiu will destroy Lin Feng, and he still understands this truth. It is not a good thing to perform too outstandingly before having enough strength to protect oneself. Moreover, this is the demon Heaven Sword Sect. Even if you die, you cannot expose your true talents and abilities. Although he had only been in for over an hour, Jiang Feng had already felt the coldness and cruelty of this world. He sat back again, closed his eyes, and continued to practice the qi technique. Jiang Feng noticed that he ran every week. The mysterious energy in his body will solidify by a fraction. After running for more than 10 weeks, Jiang Feng's brow slightly furrowed. For some reason, he always felt that the path of the mysterious energy in his body made him feel a bit uncomfortable. He surprisingly discovered that the route of Xuanqi's movement in the 8 extraordinary meridians was not the optimal route. As if taking a detour. Jiang Feng knew that his ability to see these things was related to his innate talent for enlightenment. There are many similarities in the qi cultivation formula. Then modify the operation trajectory of the qi cultivation technique yourself. In this way, Jiang Feng perfected his optimized version of qi cultivation formula with his natural talent and abilities. In a moment, his speed of absorbing xuanqi doubled. In a faint moment, a mysterious vortex slowly spun around him. And not far away at this moment, those young people who strive to practice the Qi Ju suddenly find that the mysterious energy in their bodies is gradually becoming restless. Ah! The howls of grief echoed incessantly, one after another. Countless young people fell in the field. Soon, there's only one left in the field. Less than 1,000 people are still supporting. When the number of people dropped to over 100, this trend gradually stopped. Jiang Feng opened his eyes again. The surviving 100 or so people quickly stood up, each with a look of fear on their faces. In my heart, there was also a feeling of surviving a disaster. They finally managed to get through it and worked tirelessly on practicing the Qi technique for 6 weeks. What exactly is this place? There are only over 100 of us left after 6,000 people. I have heard that the demon Heaven Sword Sect is extremely cruel, but I never thought I underestimated it far away. What should we do now? How to do it? We have no other choice. Yeah. I can only listen to the old man's words and go to the sword tower to the west to collect the identity of the sword guardian. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 3. SSS Level Extraction. An exhilarating experience. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone entered the sword tower and each received their identity cards. Only then did Jiang Feng understand. The daily life of a swordsman is actually very simple. It's just daily maintenance of these sword graves, cleaning long swords, clearing weeds, and so on. This place is considered a forbidden area of the demon Heaven Sword Sect, known as the Tianyuan Sword Tomb. Their location is only on the outskirts of the Tianyuan Sword Tomb. The owners of these sword graves are all disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect who have died throughout history. And the person buried inside the Tianyuan Sword Tomb did not say. That's not something they can come into contact with at this moment. Of course, the demon Heaven Sword Sect did not allow them to work in vain. Every month, there are 2 inferior xuanqi stones and 1 opportunity to descend the mountain. If a disciple takes the opportunity to escape while descending the mountain, they will be pursued by the demon Heaven Sword Sect. No one would joke with their lives. In addition, Jiang Feng and other disciples also learned a piece of news. There will be an outer mountain test within the sect in 6 months. After learning about the thoughts of the disciples, the elder Shao, who was responsible for recruiting new disciples from the sect. Immediately, he gave a sinister smile to everyone and said, if you people can survive until the outer mountain test in 6 months, then you have a chance to become the official disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. Upon hearing Elder Zhao's words, everyone was immediately excited. To be a disciple of the outer mountain, the ghost wants to guard the sword tomb here. At this moment, only Jiang Feng vaguely sensed a slight abnormality. Why would it be said that if everyone could live until 6 months later? Is it difficult to wash swords in daily graves? What are the dangers? At the same time, each of them has a sword guardian identity card that plays a role. That is to record the frequency of daily maintenance. After washing a sword tomb, a number will be displayed on the identity card. Within a month, the number of times on the identity card must reach 10 or more to be considered qualified. Otherwise, punishment will be imposed. At first glance, everyone felt relieved upon hearing this rule. It takes an average of 3 days to take care of a sword grave, and this daily routine is simply too easy. But just 1 hour later, everyone was poured with cold water by the cruel reality. Everyone watched helplessly as a young disciple went to take care of a sword tomb. But when the disciple scooped a spoonful of magic spring in the well, preparing to clean the long sword on the sword grave, He just raised his hand and touched the long sword. Bang. He instantly exploded and died, turning into a mist of blood, extremely miserable. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked and frightened. He. I forgot to remind you that every sword tomb is filled with a lot of sword energy. When using the magic spring in the well to clean the long sword, you must use the chi practice technique. You must be extremely careful, otherwise you will. He. You understand. At this moment, Elder Shao stepped forward and casually said a few words before turning around and leaving. At this moment, only the people in the field understand. Why were they forced to practice the chi cultivation technique? Originally, it was for the purpose of protecting oneself when using the magic spring to clean the long sword on the sword tomb. After a moment of silence, a brave young man finally stood up in the crowd. He fully activated the chi cultivation technique and quickly took care of a small sword tomb. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on him. But this disciple only persisted for 7 or 8 breaths before hastily retreating. Subsequently, he collapsed to the ground with a palpitating expression on his face. Because the trace of elemental strength accumulated in his body has been drained by sword energy. If he doesn't retreat again, he is very likely to explode into a mist of blood like the previous person. At this moment, everyone was pale and no one dared to step forward and try again. At the same time, everyone gradually realized something. That is why they must immediately practice and improve the chi refining technique. Only by making the body's energy more abundant and strong can daily work be completed. Everyone began to focus and meditate, quickly starting to cultivate on their own. Upon seeing this, Jiang Feng raised his sword eyebrows slightly and immediately walked towards the distance. There was no one around, and Jiang Feng casually chose a remote small sword tomb. He immediately activated the chi training technique. After taking a deep breath, Jiang Feng took a step closer to the sword tomb. As soon as he approached, he noticed it. A sword chi penetrates into the body. This sword energy gives Jiang Feng a feeling of coldness and desolation. But when the elemental strength around the body enveloped the sword energy, this feeling suddenly disappeared. Without hesitation, Jiang Feng immediately took out some magic springs. Immediately, he grabbed the long sword on the grave and prepared to wash it. He could sense that the most difficult step in washing swords in daily sword graves was the step of washing swords in the magic spring. However, the moment Jiang Feng grasped the hilt of the sword, an incredibly fierce and sharp sword aura actually penetrated his body along his arm. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Feng's eyes sparkled with precision. Screen after screen appeared in his mind. A powerful figure from the demon Heaven Sword Sect, using this wind-slaying sword technique to slay countless powerful enemies, has achieved great fame. Decades later, this person was ultimately beheaded by so-called righteous individuals. Waves of light and shadow played in Jiang Feng's mind like a fleeting observation of flowers. At this moment, Jiang Feng holds a long sword and his SSS level talent is automatically activated. The wind-cutting sword technique that frightened countless people had already been engraved in Jiang Feng's mind. Then he suddenly realized that his talent was self-stimulating, and the essence of the wind-slaying sword technique had already been fully understood by him. He can even optimize in some mysterious aspects. This makes this set of swordsmanship more profound and unpredictable, greatly increasing its power. Unconsciously, Jiang Feng also waved his long sword in his hand. Every sword swung carries a hint of autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. After half a pillar of incense, the image in Jiang Feng's mind suddenly disappeared. He also came back to his senses from a deep insight. He lowered his head and stared at the long sword in his hand, his face full of surprise and shock. This is the effect of my 2 innate abilities. He has completely mastered this top-notch wind-slaying sword technique of the Xuanjie class. This is also a bit magical. Moreover, Jiang Feng noticed that besides the newly cultivated elemental power, he was still in his body. Surprisingly, there was an extra strong sword energy. This sword aura not only has no malice, but also vaguely conveys a hint of closeness. Even the long sword in his hand showed no sense of rejection towards him. Is this sword called Shao Se? Jiang Feng said lightly. Buzz. As the words fell, the long sword in his hand trembled slightly, as if responding to Jiang Feng. Sword has spirituality and is indeed true. Jiang Feng seemed to have thought of something and lowered his head to look at the identity card of the sword keeper at his waist. The number displayed on the sign is still 0. And when he cleaned the long sword with a magic spring, the number on his identity card only changed to 1. Jiang Feng couldn't help but sigh in his heart that the daily routine of washing swords in the magic spring could not be fake. Feilu's novel, Fei wants you to look good. Chapter 4. Rising Cultivation. Quickly kill the red-scaled python. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For several consecutive days, more than 100 people who followed Jiang Feng in were immersed in cultivation. During this period, they also tried to wash their swords in the magic spring at the sword tomb, but all of them were unsuccessful. At their current level of elemental strength, they still cannot achieve it. And Jiang Feng washed over 20 long swords. Extracted and comprehended 8 or 9 different styles of swordsmanship. And there are also 30 sharp and powerful sword energies in the 8 extraordinary meridians. But what Jiang Feng gained the most was a lot of insights into swordsmanship. And his understanding of this world. The cultivation realm of this fantasy world is divided into Qi Gathering Realm, Yu Xian Realm, Shanhai Realm, and Xiangang Realm. Of course, there are also those unattainable realms far above the Xiangang Realm. In the realm of practice, there are 9 levels of heaven in each realm. And within this demon Heaven Sword Sect, the strongest cultivator in the Xiangang realm is the one with the highest cultivation. Jiang Feng now understands. After yesterday's cultivation, my cultivation has already entered the realm of gathering Qi, reaching the heavenly heaven. 1-day entry. This kind of progressive speed will definitely be called the sect's pride. To be precise, Jiang Feng only practiced for less than an hour. The existence that entered the country in 1 hour is it difficult to belong to the category of legendary demons. What puzzled Jiang Feng a bit was why was it that day when I tested my martial arts skills, I was recognized as a useless qualification. Is it difficult because my body has traveled through time? Knowing that he had entered the country for a day, Jiang Feng did not continue his cultivation. He is afraid that there will be too much movement during his cultivation. The speed of refinement is too fast, which leads to some unnecessary troubles. After all, when Jiang Feng first arrived, did he feel like it's better to keep a low profile. This is the Demon Heaven Sword Sect, anything can happen. On this day, Jiang Feng went to the Sword Tower. He asked how to apply for the monthly downhill opportunity. As a result, Jiang Feng was informed that he must complete the daily sword washing task at the sword tomb that month. That means you need to wash 10 swords before you can go down the mountain for a few days. For today's Jiang Feng, monthly daily tasks are simply effortless. But others didn't even clean a sword successfully. He completed 10 directly, wouldn't it be too outstanding and eye-catching? In the coming days, Jiang Feng washes his sword every day in the magic spring, constantly extracting and comprehending sword techniques. By continuously practicing swordsmanship and understanding, one can enhance their inner strength. In this way, the sword energy hidden in Jiang Feng's body is also increasing. And his understanding of swordsmanship has become increasingly profound. Until I gained 120 sword energies. Jiang Feng only realized that there was already some storage capacity in his body. Or to put it another way, under the cultivation of gathering Qi, he can only absorb 120 sword Qi. No more can be done. So, Jiang Feng felt that he needed to seize the time to improve his cultivation level. Finally, on a certain afternoon, some of the over 100 people in the sword tomb entered the country to practice the Qi technique. And successfully cleaned a sword. This made everyone else envious and jealous. An ordinary disciple of the demon Heaven Sword Sect, it takes about 5 or 6 days to enter the country. This person spent 7 or 8 days, and his martial arts skills are also impressive. However, they haven't had enough envy yet. The next morning, they heard an incredibly shocking and explosive news. Among them were over 100 people, a young man named Jiang Feng. Surprisingly, I completed all the daily sword washing tasks for this month's sword tomb this morning. For a moment, this news caused a huge uproar, and it is not an exaggeration to say it was a stormy event. Oh my goodness! Who is this Jiang Feng? Why haven't we heard of him? He. It's the guy who likes to play alone and is the least sociable. Yes, he seems to be. Just called Jiang Feng. Sigh. It's him. He must have entered the country 2 days earlier than Mr. Chen, that's why he completed his daily sword tomb mission so quickly. I heard that Jiang Feng has applied for the opportunity to go down the mountain and is now going down. You say. Shouldn't Jiang Feng be trying to escape? Impossible. The powerful members of the Demon Heaven Sword Sect are like clouds, maybe you have already been killed before running far. At a time of intense discussion among the crowd, Jiang Feng had already left the Tianyuan sword tomb in the grey attire of a miscellaneous disciple. He didn't wander around. But I went straight down the mountain to the outskirts of the nearby Warcraft mountains. Obviously, Jiang Feng did not intend to run away, but rather planned to find a secluded place to practice and improve. I held it for several days, afraid of being targeted by experts in the sect, so I dare not rest assured to practice. At this moment, I can finally practice and improve to my heart's content after entering the periphery for half an hour and confirming that the surroundings were deserted. Jiang Feng searched for a hidden place under a big tree and sat in a focused position. The self-improved version of the Qi refining technique is fully operational. For a moment, the surrounding elemental forces rushed towards him as if they had found the breach of a dam. And this trend is getting faster and faster. Jiang Feng, with his eyes slightly closed, seemed to have seen the mysterious energy of heaven and earth wandering around him. It's as if there are countless stars dotted around. Jiang Feng subconsciously absorbed them into his body. In an instant, a mysterious vortex that was several times larger than before condensed. And the Xian Qi vortex is still expanding outward. After only one stick of incense, Jiang Feng's body trembled slightly. Gathering Qi in the double heaven realm. After an hour, gathering Qi in the triple heaven. Jiang Feng felt the rapid flow of elemental strength and sword energy in his body, surging and surging. For him, who possesses SSS level extraction and enlightenment, the barriers between small realms can be completely ignored. The barriers between small realms are being rapidly breached by Jiang Feng. Not long after embarking on the path of cultivation, he still doesn't know. This kind of mysterious vortex usually only appears in 2 situations. One type is when the cultivator breaks through the realm and advances, a mysterious vortex will appear. Another type is when natural materials and earthly treasures are present in the world. This situation is extremely similar to when Tian Kai and Dibao appeared. Just after Jiang Feng practiced for nearly 2 hours. A red-scaled python slowly approached Jiang Feng. It looked at Jiang Feng with a cold and greedy gaze, yet also somewhat confused. How could he be a human-type kid? Where has Tian Kai Dibao gone? At this moment, Jiang Feng seemed to have also noticed something. He suddenly opened his eyes and turned his head to look, his pupils suddenly contracting. The red-scaled python belongs to the category of Warcraft. The strength is equivalent to that of a martial artist from the Imperial Mysterious Realm above the Gathering Qi realm. And it is still at the mid-level of the Imperial Mysterious Realm. It is highly toxic and has extremely strong attack power. This red-scaled python is considered an overwhelming victory against several human warriors of the same level. Not to mention the martial artists in the gathering chi realm, they are simply delicious food in front of them. The red-scaled python revealed a pitch-black snake letter, and the beast's pupils stared fixedly at Jiang Feng in front of it. What can confuse the red-scaled python is, when the human kid in the middle stage of the chi-gathering realm in front of him first saw it, there was clearly a hint of fear. But at the second glance, his expression instantly returned to normal. And there was still a look of anticipation on his face. Red-scaled python, ... Is this person scared and foolish? You still have such enthusiasm to die. The red-scaled python roared and opened its big mouth, rushing towards Jiang Feng. Just when the distance between the two is only 1 zhang. Slash. Jiang Feng snorted coldly, pointed his right hand together as a sword, and then suddenly swung his 2 fingers out. Shoo! A thin 3-inch sword chi burst out from practice, emitting the sound of air cutting. The moment the red-scaled python saw this sword energy, his eyes showed shock. Instinct tells it that this sword energy is extremely dangerous. Never be tough. Without any hesitation, the red-scaled python immediately turned around and wanted to escape. Jiang Feng's sword energy is really too fast. It only then produced a hint of timidity and retreat, and the sword energy arrived. Shoo! The body of the red-scaled python suddenly froze. A shocking blood line extends from the head of the red-scaled python to its tail. With a sneer, its body was divided into 2 parts. It immediately fell to the ground, and vitality dissipated in an instant. The power of this sword chi is extraordinary. Jiang Feng smiled and muttered to himself. He just casually extracted a sword energy from his body, and its power was so terrifying. Originally, there were a total of 120 sword energies in my body, and this is just one of them. For Jiang Feng, there is an endless sword energy on the side of the sword tomb. He can have as much as he wants. Even if all 120 sword energies are used up, it is easy to replenish them in the sword tomb area. Jiang Feng handled the body of the red-scaled python in a simple manner. Even if you were to concentrate and sit again, continue to immerse yourself in the practice of selflessness. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 5. One-stop operation. Ju Qi Jing Jiu Chong Tian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After half a day of intensive cultivation, Jiang Feng has already elevated his cultivation to the 7th level of Qi gathering realm. We have officially entered the late stage of gathering Qi. He also noticed that after entering the 7th level of Qi gathering, his cultivation speed slowed down significantly. After all, it is only an improved Qi cultivation technique, and the foundation of the technique is really average. When we find a high-level cultivation method to cultivate, the situation will be different. If Jiang Feng's idea is heard by others, he will definitely be shocked to drop his chin. In one day, I went from the 1st level of Qi gathering realm to the 7th level of Qi gathering realm. This is simply a rock-shattering shock, yet still unsatisfied. If it were for ordinary people, it would be impossible to achieve it without 1 or 2 years of hard work. Jiang Feng stretched his body and made a series of clicking sounds. At this moment, he felt his whole body filled with strength. Boom! He punched a green ancient tree next to him. Bang! The few people hugged the thick ancient tree and shook violently. Countless fallen leaves scattered, and a fist hole as thick as a bowl appeared on the trunk of the tree. This punch has at least 3,000 pounds of strength. Upon seeing this, Jiang Feng was overjoyed. If it were for Earth, he would already be a superhero. But the world in front of us. A person with a power of 3,000 pounds is just an ant. Jiang Feng shook his head without further thought. Night is approaching. Jiang Feng doesn't want to spend the night in the Warcraft mountains. Dispose of several Warcraft corpses around you. After collecting all the valuable things, he was ready to go back. During most of the day, except for the red-scaled python at the beginning, Jiang Feng subsequently attracted several powerful Warcraft. Without exception, they were all instantly killed by the sword energy thrown by Jiang Feng. Extremely neat and effortless. After returning to the sect, Jiang Feng sold the valuable parts of the Warcraft on his body. Earn over 30 inferior Xuanqi stones in one breath. This is equivalent to a year's income for the swordsman. The demon Heaven Sword Sect has a library, and the library contains countless martial arts and supernatural powers. But the minimum threshold for entering the library is also for formal Outer Mountain disciples. Their status as swordsmen is no different from that of miscellaneous workers, and they have no qualification to enter at all. Jiang Feng can only wait for the Outer Mountain test in 6 months. At that time, he will achieve excellent results and strive to work at the Sword Tower inside the Tianyuan Sword Tomb. That identity is equivalent to being a disciple of the Outer Mountain. Of course, things are unpredictable and unpredictable. He is not sure if the Outer Mountain test in 6 months will make him soar to the sky. After collecting the Xuanqi stone, Jiang Feng returned to the Tianyuan Sword Tomb. After walking outside the Forbidden Area formation, the identity card of the sword defender on his body flickered slightly. Jiang Feng walked back without any obstacles. Ha! Did that ruthless person come back? It's Jiang Feng. I don't know what he went out for. Envy. He has completed his daily sword washing task this month, but I can't even clean a sword. Hey! Me too. I can't even finish washing a sword, and I can't withstand the sword aura on the sword grave. Those who came in together to guard the sword and watched Jiang Feng return, all began to discuss in a low voice, but Jiang Fengxi paid no attention to them. After all, there is still a lot to do now. Going out consumed nearly 20 sword energy. He must replenish it. The key is that in the Qi gathering realm, it can accommodate 120 sword tomb sword energies. Now his cultivation has been elevated to the 7th level of Qi gathering realm. I don't know how many sword tomb sword energies he can hold at this moment. Without hesitation, Jiang Feng avoided these people. Start wandering around the outskirts of the Tianyuan sword tomb, searching for suitable prey. These sword graves vary in size, and the strength of the sword energy intertwined above them is also different. And at least tens of thousands of sword graves stand in this area. So Jiang Feng doesn't have to worry about the consumption of sword energy at all. And Jiang Feng noticed that even the long sword on the tomb, which he had extracted sword energy from, was there. After a period of time, the next sword energy will gradually develop within the long sword. It can be said that it is inexhaustible and inexhaustible. Bang, bang, bang as Jiang Feng used the magic spring to clean the long swords on the sword graves. Fragments of memories from the owner of the sword tomb kept pounding through his mind, and Jiang Feng's SSS level extraction and enlightenment talent abilities are also automatically activated. Extraction successful, understand the Xuanjia swordsmanship, purple crystal swordsmanship. Extraction successful, understand the earth level sword technique, yin-yang sword technique. Extraction successful, understand the earth level sword technique, earth level sword technique. Extraction successful, understand the Xuanjia sword technique, Xuanjia sword technique. Jiang Feng comprehended various swordsmanship at the same time, while extracting the sword energy from these long swords. Over the next 20 days, Jiang Feng actually absorbed 800 sword energy from the sword tomb. I have comprehended over 50 different levels of swordsmanship and swordsmanship. The highest level among them is a ground-level sword technique called Xianming sword technique. These days, Jiang Feng secretly operates the Qi cultivation technique in the quiet of the night. Finally, in these 2 days, Jiang Feng has elevated his cultivation to the 9 heavenly realms of gathering Qi. And among the other sword guards who came together, the one with the highest strength gathered the Qi realm twice. Most people are beginners in the realm of gathering Qi, and have not even reached the level of gathering Qi. On this day, Jiang Feng once again avoided the others. He randomly selected a sword tomb and began his daily sword washing in the magic spring. Unlimited extraction and insight into various sword techniques. At a certain moment, beads of sweat appeared on Jiang Feng's forehead. He realized that he was already very close to the limit. After a moment, Jiang Feng successfully extracted the 990th sword tomb sword Qi. A hint of determination flashed in his eyes, and he decided to continue to strike while the iron was hot. Jiang Feng walked directly towards the nearest sword tomb. Boom! Sword energy instantly enters the body. All the sword energy in the body trembled slightly. Jiang Feng's mind moved and he exerted all his strength to control it. After a while, Jiang Feng finally succeeded in extracting the sword energy from this sword tomb. At this moment, he only needs one sword energy to reach 1,000. There was also a voice in the dark telling him that there was still a count missing. Jiang Feng frowned. Not immediately attempting to extract the last sword energy. He already felt that his body was really unbearable, too forced. Once again, what should we do if his body accidentally explodes? He didn't want to extract this last one, but he was a bit unwilling. After a moment of contemplation, Jiang Feng finally decided to give it a try. After all, risks and opportunities coexist. This world is still like this. Jiang Feng once again chose a sword tomb and began washing his sword with the magic spring. Infinite extraction, infinite enlightenment, mastering swordsmanship, extracting sword energy. Jiang Feng is familiar with the road with light vehicles, extremely skilled, and can be regarded as a textbook like one-stop operation. When Jiang Feng introduced the first 1,000 sword tomb sword Qi into his body. In this moment, bang, bang, bang. The sword energy within his body began to tremble. All sword Qi interweaves at one point, rotating at an extremely fast speed, and then merging bang bang. The optimized version of the Qi cultivation formula is also running at high speed at this moment. A highly pure force flows continuously from top to bottom in his meridians, continuously impacting his meridian barriers. Jiang Feng's face showed a look of pain, but he struggled not to make a sound. Then he suddenly shook his whole body. He felt like his sea of energy had turned into a world. Countless mysterious energies from the surrounding world rushed in one after another. Not only is the scene inside Jiang Feng's body extremely stunning. The scenes around him were even more terrifying. Centered around Jiang Feng, all sword graves within a few miles began to tremble. Jing Jing Jing. Especially the long sword on the sword grave emits waves of sword chants buzz. At the next moment, a visible vortex spun 30 zhang above Jiang Feng's head. For a moment, the wind and clouds intersected, and layers of ripples rose in the entire sky. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 6. Understanding Sword Intention. You have a powerful talent that doesn't need to be hidden. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Because this happened within the forbidden area of the Tianyuan Sword Tomb, there is a magic formation to isolate it. Therefore, the other areas of the demon Heaven Sword Sect were not aware of this celestial anomaly. What's going on? The long swords on the graves around me are trembling incessantly. Me too. What exactly happened? Why don't we run away quickly? Don't run around aimlessly, this is the Tianyuan Sword Tomb. If anything happens, our lives will be ruined. The new sword guards have never seen such a scene before. They were all scared to the point of staying in place, unable to show any signs of grandeur. But not far away, a figure emerged from the sword tower, rushing towards the land of the vision. It is one of the deacons of the sword tower, Shao Qing. He also showed a look of horror in his eyes. Due to some distance from the place of the anomaly. Therefore, he is not sure what happened there. But it's definitely not a small matter that can cause thousands of sword graves to tremble. Is it difficult to see if there is any chance of creation in the Tianyuan sword tomb? He became increasingly excited when he read this. If he were the first to discover this, even if the fate did not belong to him, it would definitely be a credit. Director Zhao's figure is 1 point faster. But when he arrived at the land of the vision, his brow furrowed deeply. There was nothing, and all that vision had disappeared. There is nothing on the ground at all. Did someone else take away this fate in advance? Wait, no. Director Zhao walked towards a sword tomb and began to perceive it carefully. Is this a lingering sword intent? Hiss. Surprisingly, someone has cultivated sword intent here. Deacon Xiao exclaimed in shock. It is important to release the sword spirit, but only those masters in the Xiangang realm can achieve it. Even those with exceptional talents need to cultivate until the later stage of the Divine Sea realm in order to have a glimmer of understanding the meaning of the sword. Although Director Xiao is already in a perfect state of imperial mystery. Not to mention comprehending the meaning of the sword, it is unknown whether he can break through to the Divine Sea realm in this lifetime. Brother Xiao. What happened here? A creation was born. Another figure also rushed to the scene and immediately asked. It looks like a senior in the sect has comprehended the meaning of the sword here. Director Xiao said seriously. I realized the meaning of the sword. It's actually true. Later, the person felt it carefully and said in surprise. I don't know which senior suddenly realized it. Hurry up, let's have some insights here. This residual sword intent is very beneficial for our cultivation. As soon as Director Xiao finished speaking, he sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and focused on practicing. Not bad, while the remaining sword intent hasn't dissipated, let's hurry up and cultivate our insights. The other deacon immediately began to meditate and practice. A few more people rushed over after a moment. When they discovered the residual sword intent here, they also roughly guessed something. For a moment, this place became a place for their group of people to practice. On the other side, Jiang Feng was running rapidly inside the Tianyuan sword tomb. After a long detour, he began to return to his residence. Until now, he couldn't believe that he had cultivated the sword intent. In fact, when Jiang Feng gathered 1,000 sword energies, those sword energies actually condensed into a true sword intent on their own. Moreover, due to the influence of this chi machine, he even took the opportunity to step into the imperial mysterious realm. The cultivation has officially reached the heavenly realm of the imperial mystery. It can be said to be even more joyful. Feeling the fierce sword intent inside his body, Jiang Feng was ecstatic. He finally has his own trump card. The sword energy extracted from the sword tomb before is not inferior in power. But ultimately it's someone else's thing, just for his temporary use. And now this sword intent truly belongs to him. Moreover, the condensed sword intent does not affect his ability to continue extracting sword energy. I just don't know what the power of this sword intent is. When applying for the next opportunity to go downhill, you can find a place to try. After wandering around the area again, Jiang Feng decided to go back and rest. Now, apart from abundant elemental strength and the sword, my body is almost empty. Starting tomorrow, we can start another round of extracting sword intent. Jiang Feng returned to his relatively luxurious independent room. After all, he is only a sword keeper at this time. It would be great if you could provide a separate room. However, as soon as Jiang Feng entered the house, his pores all stood up in an instant. A very strong sense of crisis struck. Not good. Someone. Jiang Feng's heart thumped. Surprisingly, someone was standing right in his room. But rather an old man with white hair dressed in a cloud robe. Jiang Feng's first reaction was to immediately flee. His intuition told him that he was definitely not a match for the old man in front of him. Before Jiang Feng could take any action, his whole body suffocated him like a mountain. "Little guy, there's no need for that. I have no ill intentions." An elderly voice came from the old man's mouth. Jiang Feng's eyes widened as he heard the sound. This is the first time he has seen this old man, but he still remembers the sound of aging. This is the old voice that brought them into the Tianyuan sword tomb and passed on their practice of qi technique. Jiang Feng remembers that Director Shao called this old man Mu Lao. Who is he? Why does it appear here? What does he want to do? Jiang Feng's heart was full of confusion, but at the same time, a feeling of powerlessness arose in his heart. In front of a truly strong person, I am like an ant. I can only be slaughtered by others and have no ability to resist. Mu Lao casually took 2 steps forward, and the person appeared next to Jiang Feng. Immediately, Mu Lao's hand was placed on Jiang Feng's shoulder. A wave of elemental force penetrated into it. Surprisingly, my body has not left any traces of being eroded by sword energy. Moreover, it is clear that there is only one level of cultivation in the Imperial Mysterious Realm, and surprisingly, he has truly cultivated a sword-like aura. Although there are some flaws in the sword's intent, this talent is truly extremely rare. The old man's face showed a look of surprise. After giving Jiang Feng a few deep glances, he withdrew his hand. After the other party stopped, Jiang Feng felt the pressure on his body dissipate and he was able to move. But having seen the strength of the old man in front of him, he naturally dared not run away. Have you met Mr. Mu? Jiang Feng bowed respectfully. The old man in front of me is not only immeasurable in strength. And the other party also taught him the qi cultivation technique, leading him to officially enter the cultivation stage. This gift is also very appropriate. This is an elemental spirit pill that you can use to consolidate your realm. And these 2 identity cards can allow you to choose 2 martial arts and combat techniques from the library. Mr. Mu did not provide much explanation. After giving Jiang Feng 3 things, he walked towards the door. Jiang Feng. He stared blankly at the pill and identity card in his hand, confused. Yuan Ling Dan is an excellent pill only used by martial artists in the Xianjing realm. Each pill requires 200 lower-grade Xuanqi stones. And go to the library to select identity cards for martial arts and combat skills. Moreover, only those who are at the level of Outer Mountain Disciples or above can exchange their sect contribution points. In fact, for Jiang Feng, who has just broken through to the Xian realm, these 2 things can be called charcoal in the snow, urgently needed items. Mr. Mu, are you? Jiang Feng turned his head to ask the confusion in his heart. But as soon as he turned his head, he realized that Mu Lao, who was clearly behind him the previous second, had disappeared. Only 1 sentence was left in his ear. After the Outer Mountain test is over, you come to Sword Tower to find me. By the way, little one, in my demon Heaven Sword Sect, you have a powerful talent that can be displayed without hiding. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 7. Library. Skills and Martial Arts. Mao Lao's Guidance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Feng froze in the room for a few minutes. I kept pondering in my mind what Mu Lao had said earlier. Now it is obvious that his talent and understanding of the meaning of the sword have aroused the interest of Mu Lao. As expected, Jianjiao enjoys preferential treatment and privileges everywhere. This should be considered as Mr. Mu's goodwill and early investment towards himself. Jiang Feng is not prepared to refuse Mu Lao's kindness. In fact, these are all things he urgently needs at the moment. At this moment, he also developed a slight liking for this scene. In fact, Jiang Feng extracted the remaining memories of thousands of elite disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. At this moment, he has a different understanding of the demon Heaven Sword Sect than before. Or rather, I have a slightly different understanding of the righteous and demonic sections. In this world where the strong are respected and cold-blooded and ruthless, sometimes the actions of so-called righteous individuals may become increasingly repulsive and even deeply abhorrent. The orthodox sect may follow more rules and regulations, but in reality, it is full of intrigue and conspiracy. However, the masters of the demon sect are free to do things as they please, enjoying their joys and sorrows, and not bound by worldly norms. There are also many righteous experts among the righteous, but in fact, they are more like demons than demons. Therefore, those who practice should maintain their true intention and not fall into it. With a clear understanding, Jiang Feng no longer hesitated and looked up, swallowing the Yuan Ling Dan into his stomach. In an instant, the Yuan Ling Dan transformed into a surging and pure force. It flows through his unique meridians and limbs. Jiang Feng sat cross-legged and practiced the technique, consolidating his current state. In just one night, Jiang Feng completely consolidated the heavenly mysterious realm. Such high efficiency is truly enviable. The sky was slightly bright, and Jiang Feng had already left the door. Actually, he has a question in his mind at this moment. Last night, when evaluating him, Mr. Mu seemed to have mentioned that his sword intent still had flaws. What does this mean? What exactly is the meaning of a flawed sword? What is the perfect sword intent? He read through the remaining memories of thousands of fallen swords and graves. But those people are all elite disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. Not a strong person at the level of an inner sect elder, let alone a super strong person at the level of a supreme elder. Therefore, no one has fully grasped the meaning of the sword. Therefore, Jiang Feng really doesn't understand the meaning of the sword. It seems that we can only wait for the outer mountain test and ask Mr. Mu about it. Jiang Feng spread out his body and ran rapidly. The speed of several zhang per breath made him feel extremely happy. This is still Jiang Feng who has not practiced any body techniques. If he were to find a suitable body-type cultivation method for him, then his efficiency must be several times faster. Avoiding the bustling crowd, Jiang Feng walked towards the first sword tomb after the breakthrough. Similarly, the magic spring washes the sword, infinitely extracting and constantly comprehending sword techniques. Jiang Feng is extremely skilled in this set of operations. Especially when his cultivation reached the Xian realm, his speed of this set of operations also rapidly increased. But the next moment, Jiang Feng's face changed slightly. He sensed a slight abnormality. After the sword energy entered his body, he was immediately drawn out by his sword intent. Can you still play like this? What does this sword intend to do? It seems to be extremely eager for sword energy. In confusion, Jiang Feng walked towards the next sword tomb. Take in sword energy. Undoubtedly, these sword energies were once again sucked away by his sword intent. Jiang Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. It seems that the sword intent is slightly stronger. Since that's the case, then let it absorb until it reaches saturation. Jiang Feng wanted to see how much sword energy it could absorb. So, several days passed in a row. Jiang Feng is constantly absorbing sword energy around the perimeter of the sword tomb. 20 tracks 80 paths 150 paths 280 paths. This sword intent extracted 520 sword chi before approaching the bottleneck. The reason is not that the sword intent itself cannot be extracted, but Jiang Feng's understanding of swordsmanship has become increasingly limited. This also makes his sword spirit unable to continue to improve. If he continues to extract sword energy here, he can only increase the amount of sword energy. But it is extremely difficult to enhance the quality of sword intent. After all, the fallen people in the surrounding sword tombs are ordinary elite disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect's inner and outer mountains. Jiang Feng's insights are bound to be limited. The true strong sword tomb is not located on the outskirts of the Tianyuan sword tomb, and in the internal and even central areas. Obviously, at this moment, Jiang Feng is still unable to approach the internal area. It seems that we still need to continue working hard to improve our cultivation. Jiang Feng understood these and continued to wander between the sword graves. Cleaning a long sword from a grave. The number on the identity card of the sword keeper began to increase rapidly. After cleaning more than 10 sword graves, the daily task of washing swords for this month has also been completed. The next step is to replenish the sword energy in your body, and then find an opportunity to descend the mountain. 5 days later. Jiang Feng's body was filled with a sword intent and 880 sword energies, and he could no longer accommodate them. My own sword intent occupied nearly 1120 pieces of sword energy space. Armed to the teeth, his safety when going out also adds an extra guarantee. Jiang Feng left the Tianyuan sword tomb again with the permission to go out. This once again made those sword guards envious, jealous, and resentful. Last month, their daily sword washing tasks all ended in failure. This has turned the income from the 2 inferior Xuanqi stones into 1. And only 2 days have passed this month, and this guy has completed the daily task of washing swords for that month. This person is too wicked, isn't he? They felt that the gap between themselves and Jiang Feng was getting wider and it was obvious that they couldn't catch up. And at this moment, Jiang Feng did not directly go to the Warcraft mountains for cultivation, but first arrived at the library. He is ready to use up Mu Lao's kindness first and find himself 2 suitable martial arts and combat techniques. After all, the improvement of one's own strength is urgent. He only knows 1 breathing technique at this moment, and he lacks some other skills. After half a column of incense, Jiang Feng arrived at the entrance of the library. A crane-haired old man was dozing by the door, looking drowsy. Jiang Feng bowed respectfully and said, "Senior, I would like to enter the pavilion and select martial arts and combat techniques." He wouldn't underestimate such people. Will an ordinary old man guard the important area of the library? Absolutely not. This old man with white hair may be like a hidden world leader. A miscellaneous worker in the imperial mysterious realm, he. It's a bit interesting. Take out your identity card and have a look. After glancing at Jiang Feng, the old man with crane hair stroked his beard and smiled. Jiang Feng hesitated for a moment, then handed him the 2 identity cards that Mu Lao had given him with both hands. Just one glance revealed his cultivation, he is a master. Go ahead, kid. Remember that you're only allowed to choose martial arts and combat techniques on the 1st floor, and you're not allowed to go up to the 2nd floor. Hey! Wait! TSK. Is it actually the Sword Tower identity card? Who gave you this card? When the old man with white hair saw the style of his identity card clearly, a flash of brilliance flashed in his eyes. The whole person suddenly became energized. It was given to the disciple by Senior Mu. Jiang Feng answered truthfully. Hiss. What else is this old scene going to do? It's okay. I know, then you can go directly to the 3rd floor of the library. As the voice fell, the old man with white hair leaned back to the door and took a nap again. Is it on the 3rd floor? Okay. Thank you, Senior. After expressing his gratitude, Jiang Feng entered the library. The library of the demon Heaven Sword Sect has a total of 4 floors. The 1st floor is used to store ordinary Xuanjia martial arts and combat techniques. The 2nd floor houses ordinary ground-level techniques and combat techniques. The 3rd floor houses some important martial arts and combat techniques. The rank is at least the Xian level and the Earth level. As for what is on the 4th floor, Jiang Feng doesn't know. According to his understanding, no one has ever climbed the 4th floor. When Jiang Feng entered the library and climbed the stairs, the old man with white hair dozing at the door slightly opened his eyes. Is it an ordinary sword body? Unfortunately, looking at it, This Bones aptitude is a bit average. Feilu's novel, Fei Wants You to Look Good. Chapter 8. Sweeping Shadows from Above. Warcraft Mountain Range. Experience and improve. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Jiang Feng went upstairs, he was also quite surprised in his heart. He thought he could only choose 2 Xuanjie martial arts on the first floor of the library this time. Unexpectedly, Mr. Mu gave himself a big favor. The 3rd floor of the library pavilion is not accessible to ordinary disciples. Either make great contributions to the sect. Either with identity or background. Otherwise, relying solely on a small amount of sect contribution value will not be able to achieve success. After successfully entering the 3rd floor of the library, Jiang Feng searched for suitable martial arts and combat techniques on several shelves. With just a few glances, he spotted 2 familiar ground-level sword techniques. They were all swordsmanship that he had comprehended and absorbing sword energy at the Tianyuan sword tomb. The Jiang Feng Ju is a lower-level cultivation technique with extremely high growth potential. After cultivation, one's own mystical energy can be 30% more refined and pure than that of the same level. The mountain-destroying palm is a mid-level combat skill in the earth level. When practiced to perfection, one can use one fist to destroy mountains and cut off mountains. Jiang Feng reviewed a book of martial arts and combat techniques. Undoubtedly, it is a martial arts classic on the 3rd floor of the library. Just looking at the book title and introduction makes me feel very unusual. He has great confidence in his own intelligence. Jiang Feng plans to choose a body technique and a body forging technique this time. As for the cultivation techniques, my own Qi cultivation technique is still barely usable. He understood that what he lacked the most in the early days was his body speed and physical strength during battles. After all, in battle with others, if you can't fight, you can still calmly retreat with your whole body. If it's not convenient to run and you can only go to the brink of death, then physical strength is extremely important. Practice these 2 sects well, and in the future, you can walk horizontally among the same level sections. Even more advanced battles are not impossible. After selecting a stick of incense for a while, Jiang Feng selected 2 martial arts and combat techniques from them. A local level lower level body technique called Sweeping Shadow from Above. A Xuanjie perfect forging technique called Moving the Mountain technique. Sweeping shadows from above is a type of combat technique related to body movements. In the body movements and combat techniques on the 3rd floor of the library. This local low-level combat skill is already the top level. The forging technique, Moving the Mountain technique, was decided by Jiang Feng after a long selection. This book, Moving the Mountain technique, focuses on forging the body, aiming to refine the practitioner's physical body. After selecting 2 martial arts, Jiang Feng left the library and set off for the Warcraft mountain range. He plans to stay a few more days before returning to his sect after going out this time. Anyway, the daily task of washing swords has been completed, and even if you go back to absorb sword energy, you won't be able to quickly improve your cultivation. It's better to experience and improve in the Warcraft mountains. Strive to achieve a good result in the outer mountain test of the sect. There are tens of thousands of disciples from the outer mountains of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. And there are also talented individuals and extraordinary martial arts talents among them. Jiang Feng has 2 innate abilities and he feels that he must work hard. It's not in vain to travel through this world. Moreover, the magic Heaven Sword Sect is only one of the top 10 sects within the Great Shang dynasty. There are many stronger forces than it, among which various geniuses are even more unknown. Jiang Feng walked forward, and the level of Warcraft on the outskirts of the Warcraft mountains was relatively low. Most of them are in the early and middle stages of the Imperial Mysterious Realm. With these Warcraft experiences, there is no pressure at all. Therefore, Jiang Feng continued to delve more than 10 miles. He didn't stop moving forward until the level of the Warcraft beside him was equivalent to the later stage of the Imperial Mysterious Realm. This area is pretty good. The intensity of this experience is just right without arousing the sword's intent. Jiang Feng murmured, with a hint of brilliance in his eyes. The long sword in his hand is just an ordinary refined iron long sword, a sword worn by ordinary disciples. It's not that he doesn't want to buy a high-quality long sword, he's really short of money. At present, his entire fortune is only over 30 xuanqi stones. And an extremely high-quality sword can easily hold hundreds or even thousands of xuanqi stones. For a young disciple entering and exiting the cultivation world, it is really too expensive. Fortunately, Jiang Feng did not take these things too seriously. He firmly believed that improving his own strength was the top priority. When you become strong, you will have everything. Roar. At this moment, a ghostly wolf suddenly pounced from the jungle. Lifting his claws, he tore Jiang Feng's body into two pieces. Strangely, there was no trace of blood on the claws of the underworld wolf. Looking at the torn Jiang Feng in two, it has now turned into a phantom and disappeared. Just one shadow. The netherworld wolf was taken aback for a moment, then turned his head to look behind him. Just now, that human had already appeared 3 zhang behind it. Do you really think I didn't notice you? Xianming sword technique. Jiang Feng let out a low shout, and his long sword had already been swung out of his hand. Accompanied by a sharp sound of breaking through the air. Jiang Feng's long sword came from behind and pierced heavily into the body of the underworld wolf. Click. Accompanied by a crisp sound of broken bones, the underworld wolf was directly beheaded and flew out. Roar. The dark wolf's eyes turned red, and after falling to the ground, he suddenly wanted to stand up and fight back. Silver Moon Slash. Jiang Feng drank again. Kang. A silver moon-like sharp sword energy has already been cut out. Shu. The momentum is like a broken bamboo, shattering the withered and decadent. This sword energy immediately divided the netherworld wolf in half, and he could no longer die. The battle ended quickly, just in 3 breaths. Jiang Feng looked at the corpse of the Warcraft on the ground and frowned slightly. In a moment of contemplation, he began to contemplate the recent battle. Just now, my first sword angle was not sharp enough. At the same time, the conversion of elemental power is not crisp and efficient enough. So I missed the chance to kill with just one sword. I understand. After a moment, Jiang Feng, who had a clear mind, smiled slightly and quickly disposed of the body of the Warcraft ghost wolf. I saw him immediately move, and a ghostly shadow appeared. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into place. Not bad. Jiang Feng used the sweeping shadow from above body technique. I came out of the demon Heaven Sword Sect and only recently encountered the Warcraft ghost wolf. He has already mastered this body technique to a small level. This kind of martial arts talent can only be said to be extremely terrifying. When performing sweeping shadow from above, move your body at lightning speed. A remnant appears in the void, which is Xiaocheng. When traveling at lightning speed, if there are 3 residual shadows in the void, it is the realm of great achievement. If 10 residual shadows appear in the void, the body method is already at its peak, which is the state of perfection. Jiang Feng practiced sweeping shadows from above until after Xiaocheng. I feel like my speed is at least twice as fast as before. Truly deserving of the earth-level body method. So. Jiang Feng practiced sword and body techniques all day long. At night, sweeping shadows from above was also practiced to the pinnacle by him. If you want to further cultivate to the state of perfection, it will take time. The next day, Jiang Feng practiced the forging technique, moving the mountain technique. Perhaps there are some differences between the forging and body techniques. Jiang Feng practiced for a whole day before reaching the first level of the moving mountain technique. The physical strength has doubled, and the defense has also doubled. And a layer of protective mysterious aura was condensed around the body. Can withstand attacks from strong opponents who are one level higher than oneself. The mountain moving technique has a total of 9 layers. Every time you increase one level, your physical strength will be refined and enhanced. The protective Xuanqi shield will also be upgraded to a higher level, and its own defense will inevitably increase significantly. Still not fast enough. Jiang Feng said, somewhat puzzled. If this statement is heard by other disciples of the sect who practice the moving mountain technique, they will definitely be so angry that they will vomit blood on the spot. Even if an ordinary person spends 6 or 7 days practicing, they may not necessarily be able to get started. To achieve the first level of cultivation, it will take at least a month. The first level can be achieved in just 1 day, and this speed is already breathtaking. For several consecutive days, Jiang Feng is working hard to cultivate on the outskirts of the Warcraft mountains. During the day, I meditated on the secret of moving mountains and sweeping shadows from above. At night, find a hidden place to concentrate on practicing the practice chi technique. With the passage of time, Jiang Feng's cultivation strength is also rapidly improving. Finally, at noon on the 11th day, Jiang Feng held a broken sword in his hand and quickly withdrew from the depths of the Warcraft mountains. The extra wounds on the body indicate that this experience was not easy. Damn it! The defense of the magical beasts in the Divine Sea realm is also too strong. Jiang Feng complained angrily. These days, in order to hone himself, he gritted his teeth and plunged into the depths of the mountains. Without arousing the sword intent, Jiang Feng was almost crushed and beaten by the magical beasts in the Divine Sea realm. His swordsmanship and body skills have improved extremely quickly. But the ordinary refined iron long sword is simply not durable, it broke into 2 pieces after only a few cuts. And his shirt was also in tattered condition. Let's go back to the sect first. Jiang Feng had a decision in his heart. She happened to sell all these Warcraft materials and exchange them for a suitable sword. Just as Jiang Feng was preparing to turn back, his expression suddenly changed. Because it was not far from him, the sound of fighting suddenly came in waves. And the sound of fighting is still rapidly approaching him. Do you want to observe in secret? What if I can play black eat black and wait for an opportunity to make a profit? A faint thought flashed in Jiang Feng's heart. Perhaps it was damaged by the remaining memories of the disciples of the demon Heaven Sword Sect. Or perhaps it's because of his nature. Anyway, Jiang Feng's first thought was to eat black. In this world, seizing resources is too common. Quickly, 2 figures appeared. The momentum of 2 people chasing, one in front and one in the back. The one running ahead is a young woman wearing a blue dress. She had a slight blood stain on her delicate body, and her face looked a bit ugly. Her pretty face was full of anger. Behind him was a middle-aged man with rough skin and thick flesh, holding a long sword and a fierce face. Jiang Feng felt a little and saw the cultivation level of the 2. The young woman is in the perfect realm of the imperial mystery, while the middle-aged man not far away is at least in the realm of the divine sea. Anyway, you guys should hit you. I'll withdraw first. Jiang Feng thought to himself, after all, this matter has nothing to do with him. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 9. Beautiful senior sister. Borrow a sword and use it. This woman's taste is decent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The little girl of the demon sect, do you think you can run back to the demon Heaven Sword Sect? You obediently give me a warm room, and I will treat you well, jia jia. The middle-aged man grinned grimly and kept his eyes fixed on the beautiful woman who was running away. The beautiful woman in the purple dress didn't look back at all, he didn't dare to pause at all. The demon Heaven Sword Sect is already within reach, and she must fight to the death to escape back into the sect. If it really can't run away, then we can only have a bloody battle. She would rather die with this pervert than fall into his hands and be humiliated. At this moment, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a figure standing in the distance. Brother Dao, I am a disciple of Elder Ding from Danxia Peak of the Demon Heaven Sword Sect. I hope you can. She originally wanted to seek help from the other party because this place is not far from the Demon Heaven Sword Sect. It is highly likely that this person is her classmate. If combined with the strength of two people, perhaps they can resist the pursuers behind them. Even if you can't resist, just hold on to the other person for a moment. The strong within the sect will notice them, and the crisis will be resolved by then. But when she saw the young man's cultivation level clearly, her heart completely cooled down. Surprisingly, it's just the cultivation of the 3 heavenly realms in the Imperial Mysterious Realm. But how could he come to the deep edge of the Warcraft mountains? Note that the monsters that appear near here are all from the later stage of the Imperial Mysterious Realm or even have completed their cultivation. A disciple from the 3 heavens of the Imperial Mysterious Realm came here, no different from seeking death. But she doesn't have time to think about these things now. The woman slightly dodged her figure, while condensing all the elemental strength in her body. Since there is no good in any way, she will also make this villain pay the price. The Dark Moon Slash. The woman let out a coquettish moan. Immediately, her mysterious sword in her hand drew a silver crescent back to practice. He. The more you resist me, the more excited you become. Today. Let's stop here. The middle-aged man sneered and casually slapped Jian Mang and the woman. Flipping hands turns into clouds and covering hands into rain. The powerful elemental power of the divine sea realm is surging out. Transformed into a huge black palm in the void. Like an avalanche, crushing and crushing. In the next moment, Sword Mang and Black Giant Palm bombarded each other. Click. The sword's sharpness unleashed by the woman was shattered by the giant palm and instantly shattered. The difference in cultivation and strength between the two sides is too significant. The beautiful woman watched as her black giant palm continued to charge towards her. With a flick of the mysterious sword in his hand, a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. She would rather die than fall into the hands of such a person. At this moment, she felt a sudden surge of flowers in front of her. Sheesh. Dozens of sword energy brushed past her and slashed towards the black giant palm. The cold sword light dances like silver threads, transforming into sword energy. The river surges forward, surging and surging. Boom. A loud bang rang out. The previously indestructible black giant palm was wiped out by these dozens of sword energies. The middle-aged man was stunned. The beautiful woman in a purple dress was also stunned. Did any expert take action? Xianming sword technique. Who are you, senior brother Xiao Wenqing? A young man slowly walked up behind the beautiful woman and asked softly. The beautiful woman suddenly turned her head, her eyes filled with shock. The young man who had just appeared behind her was the 3rd level cultivation in the Imperial Mysterious Realm. That dozens of sword chi were unleashed by him. What surprised her even more was the sentence that Jiang Feng had just said. Do you know my older brother? Xiao Ziyue widened her eyes and said. It turns out to be his sister. I know your older brother and have also received his guidance before. Jiang Feng said with a calm expression. In fact, Jiang Feng saw that the woman had just used the one-type killing move from the Xianming sword technique. Subsequently, he quickly searched for relevant information in his memory. The sword tomb where he extracted sword energy and comprehended the Xianming sword technique belongs to Xiao Wenqing. A genius disciple who can rank in the top 10 in the inner gate. But when he was exploring the ruins, he accidentally fell. When the sect found the opponent, only a broken sword remained. Because I once read a memory clip of Xiao Wenqing at the sword tomb. So when Xiao Ziyue used the Xianming sword technique, Jiang Feng already remembered it. Humph. Are you brave enough to save the beauty with just 3 levels of cultivation in the Xianjing realm? Are you crazy? The middle-aged man looked at Jiang Feng with a contemptuous expression. As for how this kid was able to block his palm just now, he was not too surprised. After all, who doesn't have some survival cards yet? Can you just block 1 palm, and can you block 2, 3, or even more palms from me? Senior sister, can I borrow your Xianjian? Jiang Feng ignored this person and continued speaking to Xiao Ziyue. You. This person is a powerful player in the Divine Sea realm. Junior brother, you are not his opponent. Run away immediately, don't worry about me. Xiao Ziyue said anxiously. The difference in cultivation between the enemy and us is too great, and she doesn't want to implicate innocent people because of her. It's too late. Senior sister, do you think that middle-aged man will let me go? Jiang Feng smiled nonchalantly, thinking to himself that this senior sister was not selfish. In a critical moment, I still want to avoid involving myself, but this woman has decent character. The next moment, he directly took the mysterious sword from Xiao Ziyue's hand. Feilu's novel, Fei wants you to look good.